When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
Ciao and welcome back to PASTAMORE, Pasta with Love. I'm Chef Joe Mele, and today on PASTAMORE, I thought it would be good if we could begin by visiting different regions of Italy and focusing on one dish from each region as the subsequent shows go on. So I want to start with the region of Apulia in southern Italy. It is the region where Italy forms the boot, and it's the actual heel of the boot that we're talking about. So the one specific ingredient that comes from Apulia that I want to feature this week is something that most of us probably know very little about or never have heard of. What I'm talking about is Grana Arso. In Italian, that translates to burnt wheat. And specifically, it is the burnt wheat that was left after they burned down their durum wheat fields at the end of the growing season. And they do this every year. Well, the poor people of Apulia saw an opportunity to go in and collect all the remains of that burnt wheat and take them home, and they would mill that to a flour, and then from that they would make pastas and breads as a way that they could afford to feed their families. This was many centuries ago, and as time evolved, they got out of that practice, and this ingredient kind of went to the wayside until recently, where it's been rediscovered, and it's become now the hot item in Italy to use for pasta making and artisan bread making. I thought, what a better place to feature that is in PASTAMORE. This particular flour that comes from Apulia, actually I will show you the bag. Okay, this brand, Scura, okay, comes from Apulia. I bought it online. It cost $37 for an 11-pound bag. It's not inexpensive, but then again, what artisan product isn't a little bit costly? But anyway, it's still worth the price, and it's an amazing ingredient. And it's amazing because, I don't know if you can pick up on this, but this is the actual flour. It is a little bit ashen in color, okay? You can see that it has a little charcoal look to it. But not only that, the aroma is smoky, okay? And it has this, due to the burnt wheat effect, it gives off that smoky effect, and it translates into flavor. So you could see the difference between regular durum wheat flour, which is yellow and golden, right? And now we have this grayish looking pasta or flour that we're going to turn into a pasta. One of the problems of having this flour is that during the process of burning the wheat, along with it went all the gluten and the structure to that flour. So it would not be a good thing to mix this with egg and try to make a pasta dough, because it lacks the structure that it needs to develop the gluten. So we have to go 50-50. We have to go back to our durum wheat flour, which is going to hold all of this structure that we need, but this is going to give the color and the flavor and the aroma that we desire in this artisan pasta. We're going to take those two flours, all right, we're going to put them in our processor, mix them with our eggs, make a dough, okay, and then from that, we are going to feature a ravioli, or better yet, a raviolo, because we're doing a single. Anytime we do a single ravioli, it's called a raviolo. Plural is ravioli. So we're going to make one raviolo, okay? And we're using another trending ingredient. Most of you recognize this ingredient because you're familiar with fresh mozzarella, okay? This comes in a fresh mozzarella that is inside the ball of mozzarella is this rich, buttery essence of cheese that oozes out when it's cut open. So we're going to take that. Normally, we use it to make a salad with. And we marinate it with olive oil and basil, tomato, etc. But now we're going to take it, make our dough, put it inside this ravioli, and come up with a completely new dish, transforming two hard-to-find trending ingredients and bring it into one exciting new dish. So we're going to start by adding our flours to the processor. Okay, that's 8 ounces each of the Grana Arso, or the burnt wheat flour, 8 ounces of the extra fancy durum wheat flour, and we're going to combine that with 5 eggs. All right, so our traditional pasta making ingredients, there's 2 ingredients, 5 eggs and a pound of flour. Very simple. From this creates a very, very durable, strong pasta dough that we can put through our rollers, stretch out, and rather thinly, I might add, until we get the consistency that's perfect for ravioli making. Okay? All right, so all we're going to do is combine this, and you can see it's already starting to transform into that charcoal color I was talking about. And we're just going to do it until it comes together. And then we have this beautiful color that we're looking for. So this will go out of the way since we no longer need it. And then we're just going to take and knead this together to make a very cohesive dough. So look at that. Nothing left on the table, okay? This is the perfect consistency. That 5 eggs and a pound of flour is foolproof. So there's little specks in here, and I'm not sure if you can pick up on that, but it's really gorgeous. It really is. It's not a solid mass of color, but it's got little black flecks throughout. And when I smell it, it gives off that smoky aroma I was talking about. Okay, so what do we do here? We have to let this rest a little bit, as with all pasta making. Okay, we're going to wrap that, and we're going to let that rest. Okay, so now, while that's resting, I want to talk to you about the sauce that we're going to pair this with. Essentially, it's a raw, uncooked sauce, or better yet, a salsa. In Italian, we say salsa fresca, a fresh sauce. So what I have here is diced heirloom tomatoes. Okay, I have some red, some yellow, some purple, orange, and this is going to make for a very colorful topping for our dish. The other ingredients, just think about when you do a mozzarella alla caprese salad, you slice the mozzarella and then you layer it with tomatoes and you top it with olive oil and basil, salt and pepper, and then you serve it. So what a better sauce to finish this raviolo with is those same ingredients. So we're going to start out with our diced fresh tomatoes, okay? To that, we're going to add some minced garlic, okay? Some diced red onion, our basil, a little peperoncino, crushed red pepper for a little bit of spice, a little bit of back of the throat, some salt and pepper, and some olive oil, extra virgin. Okay, and these are the simple ingredients that we're going to use to complete our sauce, or our salsa fresca. So I'm just going to combine those. Think about if you have it's the end of the summer, so I'm hoping that maybe you have some fresh tomatoes in your garden by now. You probably have your basils growing wild. What a perfect time to go out, collect this, and make this salsa fresca. It's absolutely gorgeous. And just let it sit at room temperature. Okay? By sitting at room temperature, it's going to allow the tomatoes to release their juices. And all of those ingredients come together for a well-balanced flavor. So, it's very colorful. Our sauce is done. I don't know how many sauces you can say you can make in that short amount of time we just made that. So we're going to let this sit and just let all those juices come out naturally. Okay? So while that's sitting, I'm going to go back to our pasta dough. Okay? And now we're going to roll this out. First of all, what I want to do is cut this into 4 pieces. Okay, the reason why we do this, okay, you would never want to take that whole batch of dough you just made and try to force it through the pasta machine. So I'm going to take 1/4 at a time, and then with the rest of it, I'm going to leave it wrapped up so it doesn't dry out. Okay, so I'm going to need a little dusting flour, which I have right here. Put a little on my table, and then with the heel of my hand, I'm going to press it down, and then I want to manipulate this so that it's thin enough to go through the machine, therefore putting less stress on my machine. So already, I mean, this is just coming together beautifully because I love the color that this particular flour gives off. All right, so we get our dough down, right? And we're going to pull our machine forward a little bit, okay? Now, in this, you want to make sure your machine is open to the widest setting possible, okay? And now in the beginning, I do a little bit of folding just to complete the kneading process. So I don't know if you could see the little beautiful flecks of the burnt wheat flour. A little dust, okay, just to keep it from sticking as it goes through. Now, you see the structure of this. If I just use that flour straight up with the eggs, there was no way this would hold together when I did that. It would just totally break apart. Because I added the durum, it's given this the structure it needs. So I'm gradually going to roll this out thinner and thinner until I get my desired consistency of my sheet or my sfoglio, right? When we talk about pasta sheets, the name in Italian is sfoglio. This is S-F-O-G-L-I-A. Now the reason why I have to make sure that I get a sheet as thin as possible without breaking is because when we encase the burrata inside, the burrata is going to cook very quickly and it's going to start to melt and ooze. And so the longer it cooks, the longer I risk that cheese of leaching out of the raviolo. So I want my pasta sheet to be very thin so my pasta cooks really quickly. I probably go down to the second to last setting on the pasta machine, which is thin enough. If I go to the last, then I risk the dough tearing and ripping, and it gets too thin. Okay, so we have a beautiful pasta sheet, or a sfoglio, okay? I'm going to dust a little bit. I want to keep it, I don't want to dry it out too much because this dough has to stick together when I make the raviolo. Okay, so I'm going to trim up, square off my sheet a little bit. Any of the excess I can re-roll. Brush off the excess flour. And I'm going to cut this into okay, so I have two. I'm going to put one aside for the moment. Let's look at our burrata. So I have a burrata. I have a couple of them in here. So I very, very delicately, I lift it out. Okay, this is gorgeous right here. This has kind of like the consistency of a poached egg. So you got to be that careful with it. If you break it, all that goodness, that buttery goodness. The word burrata in Italian means buttery, right? So when we open this up and all that goodness comes out of it, that's the secret of burrata. All right, so before I place it into my raviolo, what I must do is I'm going to blot it because I don't want any extra moisture inside the raviolo. So I gently blot the excess liquid, okay? And now I'm going to show you how to fill the raviolo. I'm going to take my biscuit cutters, okay? I have like a very large one that's going to just show me the circumference of the ravioli. So now I can center this right in the middle. Gotta be sure I do this important step. Salt and pepper on your, because when you cut inside, you want a little bit of that flavor to come through. So a little bit of salt and pepper on top of the burrata. All right, now I need my brush. I'm going to take a little bit of water, okay? Just because when I fold this over and seal it, that water is going to act like a little bit of a glue. Okay? So now we take and we fold over and try to get out all the excess air. Press down. Okay, and now I need to kind of frame this. So I kind of know where that raviolo is, but I really want to see it. So just by turning my biscuit cutter upside down, now I can kind of frame where that is. So now I go back with my original cutter and I cut out like that, but I want to do one more thing, okay? Just because I want to be sure that my edges seal, I just want to go back and with a fork press down, further sealing that burrata inside. So what I do now is I transfer it to a plate that has a little bit of semolina on the bottom, okay? That's because I need this ravioli to move, okay? I don't want it to stick to the plate, therefore tearing it when I go to cook it. So I did one, let's do one more, just so, I always like to do a couple and then choose my best looking one for the plate. So again, I have my sfoglio, right? I'm going to mark it. I'm going to blot my burrata, just in case you missed it the first time. I'm going to blot it, nice and nice, right in the center of that circle, okay? Season. Okay, a little glue, a little bit of our water glue. Brush, brush, brush. Okay, we're going to fold over. Press it down, try to make sure the air is out all around, like that. Okay, go back and frame it so it pops up on you. Go back with your large cutter again. Cut it out. Okay, these can be re-rolled. And we're going to seal. So now I lift it up delicately, put it on a plate. So now I have two beautiful looking raviolo, okay? I guess it's ravioli now that there's two together. That's plural. Okay, so these are ready for the pot. Okay, what I need to make sure of is that I have rapidly boiling water, okay? That's one of the first rules of cooking pasta, right? Rapidly boiling salted water. And if you remember, or if in case you've forgotten, Italians cook pasta like they're using seawater. So we got to make sure that we liberally salt our water. And I know some of you are probably saying, oh my God, look at all the salt. This is the only chance you get to season the pasta, is in the water, okay? So the water is boiling rapidly, all right, which is key because we said we want this to cook quickly, okay? So that's going to go in the water next, all right? So we're going to take this from here, we're going to go over here, cook it in the water. I'm going to show you what it looks like while it's in the cooking process. Then we're going to take it out, drain it really well, and I'll show you how to plate this dish. What we're making today is a really, really good first course or starter dish. You wouldn't serve a lot of these as an entree. It's just way too rich. But it does make the perfect first course starter as an appetizer. Or if you prefer, you're having a luncheon and you want a single one dish item, this is a perfect luncheon, especially on a hot summer day. Okay, it's so light. Okay, so we're going to take this to the stove, and I'll meet you on the other side back here for plating. Okay, so we have rapidly boiling water, and I am just going to gently, right into the water, okay? And make sure you have some type of a slotted spoon. You can have a slotted spoon, you can have a mesh strainer, something that's going to get rid of a lot of that water before you actually plate. One of the last things you want to see on your plate is a pool of water pooling on your plate when you go to serve. So, and when I put these in the water, I don't know if you can tell or not, but that color just got set. It popped and even made it even more defined. You can see the streaks of the charcoal in there. It's gorgeous. All right, so we said we don't want to cook these too long because we don't want the cheese to melt and ooze out. Okay, so very shortly now I'm going to get my towel ready. All right, my blotter again. And what I just took is a bunch of paper towels rolled up and just use as a blotter underneath my pasta. Okay, so I'm going to come from here. And I'm going to go straight over to this, just like this, and then fold over and blot it a little bit more. because I do not. Okay, so we have, this is our presentation side right here, where it almost looks like a sunny side up egg, where I can see most of my raviolo. Okay, we're going to do that again. Gently. And we're going to lay it down, and we're going to blot. Okay, the last thing, like I said, I want on my plate. All right, so I'm going to let that drain a little bit. Okay, now, one more thing we need to add to our dish. Okay, along with our salsa fresca, okay, I have a simple bed of fresh baby arugula. All right, so this is going to serve as a bed for our raviolo. So always, again, always season your greens. Salad greens, any type of your greens for anything. Don't forget to season them. Okay? People forget about that as a last step. The other thing I'm going to mix it with is some basil oil. Okay? So to make this, I took about a cup of fresh basil leaves, put them in a blender. I heated up, warmed up some extra virgin olive oil on the stove, poured it over it, pureed it, and then strained it. And as a result, I have this gorgeous aromatic basil oil that I can use to flavor. I like putting it with fresh melon sometimes, okay? But this is going to serve as another flavor ingredient and garnish for our dish. So I'm just going to toss this together, and what it's going to do also is, besides flavoring it, is it's going to make those leaves on here glisten. So that's going to add another effect to our presentation. All right, so I'm going to just put them a così. A little rinse. Now we're ready for plating of our raviolo. So this is the one I chose. It's still warm right here. I'm going to put it right here, okay? And then I'm going to take our beautiful salsa fresca. Now, look at the juice it made, all right? I don't want all that juice on the plate, thus making it look all sloppy. So I'm just going to recoat my salsa, give it another toss again. This is my last chance, though. I never tasted it, so we should always taste, right? That little extra salt I added at the end of this before was perfect. So now I've got that fresh explosion of flavors, and this is just right for our raviolo, okay? So I'm going to put some on and let it flow off a little bit, okay? You always want to show your work. I wouldn't want to put so much on my plate that I'm covering up my raviolo. So the only other thing I need to add to this is my basil oil, and then I have a little bit of crunch going on top, and I'll show you what that is in a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to take my basil oil, okay? It's almost done, 99% done. I'm going to take a couple of grissini. Okay, grissini are very, very thin, crunchy breadsticks. Okay, these are traditional. These are not your Olive Garden breadsticks, guys. Okay, these are real grissini. And guess what? I made it with the same flour. That's why they look the charcoal color that they do. I made a pizza dough or a bread dough, roll these into breadsticks, baked them, right? And now they're going to go crisscross over the top of my dish, okay? Finishing this dish. So very simply done, very simply stated, yet very elegant, okay? You have the colors are popping here. We have the fresh tomato salsa. We have our arugula. The raviolo is the star. Don't forget about the raviolo, some basil oil, and our grissini. The only one thing left to do, the only proper thing left to do is to taste it. So, What we're going to look for optimally would be great if I could go in and get a bite that has a little bit of all of these ingredients. Okay, so what I'm looking for when I cut into this is this beautiful buttery cheese in the middle. That's what I'm looking for. Gorgeous. It's just starting to melt. Okay, so I want to get a little bit of that. I want to get some salsa and arugula, and then I want to taste. The first thing that you get is the tomato salsa up front, and then that cheese comes right in and mellows it out. It's so buttery in your mouth, and then I get a peppery bite from the arugula. The only thing I haven't gotten is a little crunch from my breadstick. So, a very simple, elegant first course from Apulia, okay? Next week, we're going to travel to Liguria, and we're going to show you a really signature dish from that area that I guarantee nobody's doing in this country. So until then, keep cooking, right? Tutti mangiare alla tavola. Ciao, ciao. Thank you for watching.